Good evening and welcome to the Pascack Valley Regional High School District Board of Education meeting. Today is February 26, 2024. During this regular meeting, 2 opportunities are provided for citizens to make comments. In order for a citizen to make a comment, they must be physically present at the meeting. During the first opportunity, early on the agenda, comments regarding agenda items are invited. The second opportunity will occur just prior to adjournment when residents may address general comments to the board. Mr. Usami, roll call.
Mrs. Varghese.
Here.
Mr. Blundo. Ms. Calderon.
Here.
Mrs. Huang.
Here.
Mr. Luisi.
Here.
Mrs. Martin.
Here.
Mr. Stankus.
Here.
Ms. Steffens.
Here.
Mr. Weaver.
Here.
Please join me for the flag salute and Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by mailing copies of said notice to the record, filing copies of said notice with the municipal clerks of Hillsdale, Montvale, Rivervale, and Woodcliff Lake, and publishing said notice in the record on July 21st, 2023. I'd like to take this opportunity to have a moment of silence in remembrance of Joseph McNeese. He was a senior at Pascack Hills High School, class of 2024, and unfortunately he passed away last week. So I'd like to take 30 seconds for a moment of silence. Thank you. I'd like to extend our deepest condolences to the McNeese family from the entire Board of Education. We have up routine matters. So we have a district report by Robert Donahue, our Director of Facilities and Capital Improvements. He's going to give us a project update and the Facilities Committee report after that.
Good evening. So we have quite a number of projects. If any of you have been reading your Friday updates, we have a lot of projects going on, and I'm going to go through them. If you have any questions as I'm going, just stop me and I'll answer your questions. So the first project, and this is in order from Pascack Valley first, then Pascack Hills. Actually, they're kind of out of sequence because some of them are existing and some of them are new. Pascack Valley entry beautification. This is a project that we went out to bid pre-COVID, came in over budget. We've been trying for some time to try to get contractors to give us pricing on various components of the project to try to get something done. Most recently, we had a proposal for concrete work that blew the whole entire budget. So we're fortunate enough to have a custodian in-house that is a mason. And he has offered to help us form and pour the concrete in-house. So we're going to move forward with that project by saving money by doing it in-house. The PV cafeteria HVAC replacement is a project that is going to go out to bid on February 29th, and the bids will be due on March 27th. Just know that project, because of the rooftop unit involved with the project, it's probably a 1-year lead time on the rooftop unit. So although we're going out to bid and hopefully it comes in under budget and awarded, it won't happen till not this summer, but next summer because the unit won't be available. The roof replacement at the 200 wing at Valley, it's complete, but we're waiting for closeout documents. We expect to receive them within the next week or two, and we can close that project out. The PV roof replacement, the lecture hall, this project was already out to bid and is currently out to bid again. We had to postpone a bid for 5 projects because of the snowstorm. So the new bid due date is March 6th. The PV ventilation upgrades, this is a project that's been ongoing for a number of years, actually. A number of the components were delayed because of COVID. The project is near completion, or it is complete. We're waiting for closeout documents, which we actually expect tomorrow. The Pascack Hills roof replacement for A-Wing, the project's complete. We're waiting for closeout documents. Expect them within the next week or two. The Pascack Hills roof replacement for C-Wing, similar to the other roof replacement project, the bids are due March 6th. Or actually, yes, bids are due March 6th. We went out to rebid because of the snowstorm. The Pascack Hills ventilation upgrade, again, we're waiting for closeout documents. The auditorium renovation, this is something we discussed in the facilities committee meeting. This is something that we're still trying to nail down what's going to happen with this project right now. The PV toilet rooms, they're complete. We're waiting for closeout documents. This is a recurring theme. Lately, projects seem to be taking longer and longer to close out. PV window replacement. This is a project that's, again, the bids are going to be due on March 6th. The Pascack Hills auditorium renovation. I'm sorry, I misspoke before. The PV auditorium renovation is an upcoming project. The Pascack Hills auditorium renovation project is a current project. Pascack Hills toilet room renovation, waiting on closeout documents. Pascack Hills roof replacement D-wing, bids are due March 6th. Pascack Hills HVAC air dell replacement A-wing, again, waiting on closeout documents, expect to get them tomorrow. And the Pascack Hills grandstand soil erosion and drainage project, bids are due March 6th. Any questions? You're welcome.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So you had told us that at one point you were taking out the lockers and putting these pull-down chair thing, like,
seats.
yeah. I
The
don't know
jump
what it's
seats.
called. How's that going?
They're done.
Oh, wow.
They're at Valley. Has anyone been to Valley outside the old gym? And what did you think?
Awesome.
They're great. It's really great because if you go during the day, the students are using them,
Oh, nice.
and it's great. Actually, sometimes the teachers are using them too. I know I've sat there and worked. They're great.
Maddie, what do you think? Have you seen it?
Yeah, they look good.
Have you used them?
Not personally, but they're always full.
That's why she can't use them, because they're full.
Okay.
That's a good problem.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My concern about the facilities committee meeting too.
I mentioned the auditorium for the facilities committee. Yes, our current state of the auditorium is that we've negotiated the prices to approximately $1.9 million, down from over 2.2, I believe.
This is Valley?
Hills.
Hills, got it.
Hills.
Okay.
So we're waiting to get feedback from the users before we decide what we're going to do with the project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next we have the Finance Committee report by Pat Luisi, the chair.
Thanks, Ginny. We met remotely last Wednesday, February 21st, and some of the things that were discussed was some of the factors or attributes that are causing this fiscal cliff that is being discussed throughout the state. We're probably not the only state that's discussing it, but some of the rising costs that are causing this concern is health insurance, pensions for non-certified staff, student transportation, salaries, special education programs and related services. We also discussed a 2% tax levy cap increase, which equals just shy of $1.1 million. And benefits increase alone takes up 2% of that cap. We talked about some measures to offset the gap that we have. That's increased budgeted maintenance reserve, increased budgeted extraordinary aid, increased budgeted fund balance, and increase in state aid. That we don't have much control over. And then we closed out the meeting by talking about other options to reduce costs for next year's budget and future budgets. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Luisi. Next, we have the student reports, and we'll start with Olivia G. from Pascack Hills High School.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Olivia G., and I will be presenting the Pascack Hills Student Report for the months of January and February. Before I begin my report, I would also like to address the tragic event that has deeply affected our school community. It is with very heavy hearts that we mourn the loss of one of our fellow students, Joe McNeese, and our thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends during this difficult time. Joe was a part of the class of 2024, and he was always very involved in the Hills community. He was a member of the bowling team. He participated in the Mr. Pascack Hills competition, and he read the morning announcements, and overall he contributed to numerous clubs and organizations within our school. And the loss of Joe has definitely really impacted our school community. But students and staff have come together to support one another during this difficult time, and together we will honor the memory of Joe and ensure that his legacy lives on in our hearts and in our minds. So, with co-curricular items, the first item is that on Thursday, February 1st, the biennial Mr. Pascack Hills competition took place in the Pascack Hills Auditorium. Big congratulations to the faculty winner, science teacher Mr. Stephen Camonto, and our student winner, junior Jack Dugan. For co-curricular item number 2, congratulations to Chamber Choir member Ion Swain for his acceptance to the Region 1 Choir of 2024. He proudly represented Pascack Hills by performing with the best singers in the region on Saturday, February 3rd at Morris Knowles High School. And for our last co-curricular item, on Saturday, February 3rd, 3 Indian exchange students from the FRC Team Sigma 9629 arrived in New Jersey, and they were here to learn about the first robotics competition, FRC, by shadowing members of the Pascack Pioneers robotics team. The trip was carefully planned for many months in advance, and the junior and senior students attended daily classes alongside Hills upperclassmen, followed by robotics in the evenings and afternoons. They also explored New York City, the Apple Store in Woodcliff Lake, and Princeton University. For the first athletic item, girls swimming had an undefeated season, but unfortunately lost at Ridgewood in the state tournament. Although the result was not what they wanted, they were able to achieve their third undefeated season, win the Big North Liberty Division championship for the third time in program history, and they gave Coach Sean Buchanan his 100th victory. So congratulations. Athletic item number 2. At the first round of the NJSIAA state tournament, senior Nick Luckman carried the middle school basketball jersey of Joe McNeese, who had passed away on Tuesday. The Broncos won the game and will now face Dumont in the quarterfinals, so good luck to boys basketball. And for the last athletic item, congratulations to Hassan Shawkat and Jake Waka, who finished 5th in the Bergen County Wrestling Tournament. Hassan Shawkat also finished 2nd at districts, and Jake Waka scored a win in the District 3 tournament. Waka also finished in third place at the NJSAA Region 1 tournament and will move on to compete in the New Jersey Individual State Tournament in Atlantic City later this month. For my joke of the day, why did the Scarecrow win an award?
Was he was outstanding in this field?
Yes, because he was outstanding in his field. Nice job.
I don't know if that got on the internet because you didn't have your microphone on. We're gonna leave the crowd hanging.
Does it have to?
Turn on your microphone and just say the answer, because the crowd's gonna be like, what? Yeah.
Was it the Scarecrow won the award?
Yeah.
Because he was outstanding in his field.
Nice. Next, we have our student report by Madeline Gibbs from Pascack Valley High School.
Good evening. My name is Maddie Gibbs, and I will be giving the PV February Student Monthly Report. For classroom items, item number 1, the first PV service program to Panama was a huge success. Mrs. Cindy Reese brought 8 students to continue the volunteer work that she did last year at an elementary school. These students completed small construction projects, interacted with the students of the school, and engaged in cultural activities, and they look forward to returning next year. Item number 2, the Panthers band brought their infectious energy to a PV hockey game on February 6th, helping support the team in their win over Ridgewood. Also, the Panthers band will be performing at a Fairleigh Dickinson University basketball game on February 29th. The PV Jazz Band has been rehearsing in preparation for their performance at the NJ State Jazz Festival prelims on March 4th. They will be performing and competing with 50 bands from around the state. Lastly, PV band students auditioned and were selected for honor bands. Region 1 Wind Ensemble, sophomore Caroline Veet on trumpet and junior Eddie Gershik on tuba, and All-State Wind Ensemble, junior Eddie Gershik on tuba, also second in the state. Item number 3, Abigail Comer, Lila Dolgoff, Olivia Glasser, Angelina Graham, Sarah Mostowski, and Madeline Wu will represent Pascack Valley High School on February 28th in the STEM League Challenge at Bernard's High School. The STEM League challenges consist of a keynote speech identifying either a global or local problem in need of a creative solution. Students are then tasked with working through the design process. Along with following the design process, students must conduct research about a scientific principle. Throughout the day, professional engineers are present to judge the work of each team and how they are working through the challenge. Lastly, the Pascack Valley and Pascack Hills STEM League students and advisors will be hosting 13 high schools at a STEM League Challenge at Pascack Valley on April 16th. For co-curricular items, co-curricular item number 1, PV's chapter of the International Thespian Society, an honor society for theater students, inducted 24 new members at our induction ceremony. The troupe is planning a visit to the Actors Fund Home, a nursing facility in Englewood, to perform songs and monologues for the residents. Also, PV Theater proudly presents High School Musical, featuring the hard work of over 75 students on stage, backstage, and in the pit band. Performances are Thursday, March 14th through Saturday, March 16th, and you can get your tickets now. Item number 2. On December 1st, members and advisors of the PV Gender and Sexuality Alliance, or the GSA, attended the Bergen County Commissioners' 5th Annual Youth Leadership Summit, hosted at Bergen Community College. The event included a variety of local government speakers, as well as those from industry. The participants were engaged with students from other school districts in leadership activities, as the advisors had their own sessions on related topics. Athletic items. Item number 1. The Pascack Valley Regional Dance Team competed at the Dance Team Union National Dance Team Competition on February 10th and 11th. The team placed 3rd out of 13 teams in large varsity team performance and 2nd out of 36 teams in small varsity pom. The dancers love competing and representing the Pascack Valley Regional District. Item number 2. Congratulations to PV Wrestling on being the undefeated Big North National Champions. PV also hosted the NJSIAA District 3 tournament on February 17th, where the team placed 2nd overall. 9 Valley wrestlers moved on to the Region 1 tournament, led by District 3 champions Aiden Cedeno and Julian Morris. For item number 3, Congratulations to the Pascack swim team on a remarkable season. The girls were undefeated Big North Liberty champions and made it to the state sectional semifinals, where they lost to the eventual state champion, making it their first loss of the season. The boys qualified for states for the first time since 2016 and made it to the state quarterfinals. Coach Sean Buchanan earned his 100th career victory when the girls beat Morristown High School in the state quarterfinals. We also have several swimmers who qualified for the state meet of champions on March 2nd. Good luck. Item number 4. Congrats to Selena Bucinich, member of the PV girls basketball team, on scoring her 1,000th career point on February 16th versus West Milford. Congrats on this remarkable accomplishment. Item number 5. Congrats to PV indoor track runners on the following accomplishments. Patrick Kurtz, North 1 Group 2 state sectional champion, 800 meter, 1600 meter, and Bergen County champion, 1,000 meter. And Marcus Koshi, North 1 Group 2 state sectional champion, 3,200 meter, and Bergen County champion, 3,200 meter as well. Item number 6. On January 14th, the Pascack Valley girls basketball team hosted the Zach Lettieri Benefit Games, which raised funds for the Zach Lettieri Foundation. For over 20 years, the Benefit Games have become an annual event on MLK Junior Weekend, raising funds for various charities. For the past 5 years, these games have benefited the Zach Lettieri Foundation, which was created in memory of Zach Lettieri, a student from Rivervale who fought a courageous battle against cancer, passing away after his freshman year at PV. The games received tremendous support from the basketball community, with 18 teams, including both the PV girls and boys teams, playing 9 games. It is supported by the Zach Lettieri Foundation student ambassadors, PV students who have committed to volunteer for the foundation. Over the years, we have seen it grow from the original ambassadors, who were Zach's classmates, to their siblings and new students. On January 15th, during PV's MLK Junior Beloved Community Day, Jeff Jasper and Ken Sarajian hosted Team Giving Back, bringing together faculty, current students, alumni, Lettieri ambassadors, Karen Kosh, a former PV teacher who now serves on the ZLF board, and Mrs. Lettieri for a session discussing volunteerism, civic engagement, and giving back. They also provided insight for other groups that seek to increase their giving back and civic engagement. Item number 7. In other athletic news, congratulations to the following teams and programs. PV Regional Hockey Team for being Big North Gold Cup finalist, and the PV Boys JV Basketball Team for being Bergen County Tournament finalists. For my fun fact, the Executive Council, along with all class councils, is planning the Class Cause Week starting on March 4th. This week will consist of events and fundraisers to raise awareness and money for each class cause. Be sure to get involved and help support these wonderful causes. And now for my joke. How does the moon cut his hair? Eclipse it. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Madeline. One thing I would like to talk about with the board is we all got the email for the robot reveal night for the Pascack Pioneers robotic team. That is tomorrow night. So if we can go and support them, it would be great. It's going to be here. So that's from 6 to 7:30. And we meet their team, we meet the robot from 2024, and they have a lot of outreach efforts that they'd like to tell us about. So if we can, and you can still RSVP because you can. Okay? Next, we have the minutes for the February 5th meeting, 2024. The Pascack Valley High School District Board of Education, at the recommendation of the superintendent, approved the following Pascack Valley Regional High School District Board of Education meeting. Can I get a minutes? You are correct, Mrs. Wang. Thank you. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Usami, roll call?
Ms. Calderon,
Yes.
Mrs. Huang,
Yes.
Mr. Luisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mrs. Varghese.
Yes. Next, we have comments from the public. Citizens are invited to make comments regarding agenda items and are limited to 3 minutes, according to the Pascack Valley Regional High School District Board of Education. Policy number 0167. Persons wishing to speak must, upon being recognized, rise, sign in, and state their name, town of residence, and which agenda item they are referencing. Looks like we have no one, so we will go on to education, where there are 6 consent agenda items. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Yusami, roll call?
Ms. Calderon,
Yes.
Mrs. Wong,
Yes.
Mr. Luisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Abstain from 6, yes to the rest.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mrs. Varghese.
Yes. Next, we have human resources. We have 17 consent agenda items. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Yusami.
Ms. Calderon,
Yes.
Mrs. Wong,
Yes.
Mr. Luisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Abstain from 17, yes to the remainder.
Mr. Weaver,
Abstain 4, yes to everything else.
Mrs. Varghese.
Yes. Next, we have finance, and we have 19 consent agenda items. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Yusami, roll call, please.
Ms. Calderon,
Yes.
Mrs. Wong,
Yes.
Mr. Luisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
Yes.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Mrs. Varghese.
Yes. Next, we have old business. We have a presentation by Solutions Architects about the Pascack Hills locker room renovations.
So I actually would like to suggest that while they set up, they're going to do a presentation. We've got to set up the screen and move things around. While they do that, if I would suggest that we actually walk down to the locker room real quick so we can get a visual on that. I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, that would.
And so there are no members of the public here, but any members of the public that may come in, we'll invite them down. Ms. McCabe, do you mind staying here just in case a member of the public comes in? And then there should be, the board members, there's going to be no discussion while we're going down there. We're just going to go down and check it out and then come back.
Okay.
Good, thank you. Mr.
Okay, thank you for letting us take that break to check out the locker rooms at Pascack Hills, both boys and girls. And now we'll have the presentation from Solution Architects regarding the Pascack Hills locker room renovation.
Wonderful. Good evening, everyone. My name is Frank Massinio. I'm the principal and founder of Solutions Architecture. With me is Tom Strasser. Tom is the project architect responsible for Pascack Hills and Pascack Valley. So we're basically here to talk a little bit about and give you guys an update on where we were, and if you believe this, it was 2022 already, the last time we spoke of this. So it's some time has passed, but we want to talk a little bit about the high school locker room and team rooms and the existing locker rooms, which no doubt you just all went and saw. So there's definitely a need here for the spaces, to update the spaces, to provide greater efficiency and also reclaim underutilized space, because in locker rooms, in middle school, high school locker rooms, there's often a big need today, because the old shower rooms have often been misplaced. They're used as storage, or they're used as, they're not used in the manner that they were 30 years ago. And, we're in this position in many school districts. You're not the only one. It's something that we're doing all the time for school districts, providing a space that the showers can be used, but with privacy and with, dignity, like they should be. So the critical needs that were discussed back when were to provide equity or equality between the boys' rooms and the girls' rooms, the girls' locker rooms and team rooms, as well as providing additional team rooms for the necessary for the sports programs. So when we looked at this back in 2022, there were a couple of different options that we explored. And one was simply to renovate the existing locker rooms as they are, try to reclaim that underutilized space, try to expand and get more space within the area, the footprint that currently exists. The second alternative was to look at explore the possibility of a team room addition somewhere, whether it was off of this building, whether it was a separate standalone building, and we came up with a couple of options. One was a potential second floor addition, and the other was a separately constructed field house that would also have public toilets and concession, but also provide necessary team rooms for home and away. So in looking at the two options, the first option was, in fact, to renovate the existing locker rooms as they are without expanding the footprint, but trying to provide space, and that also included an option to construct a new field house. So if we look at the existing plan, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see, if we look at the existing plan, bear with me. So this is your existing plan here, and you can see from the dotted lines that are shown, there is a very large shower area that's underutilized. There are a series of, smaller toilet room areas, and the space is very fragmented and very inefficient as it currently exists. Our initial look at the space was to try and reclaim that shower area and make it usable by providing a coach's office, by providing additional storage, and then by creating a team room, a girls' team room, and then a girls' locker room, again, creating additional locker space by using islands that are low, not like the old school locker rooms where you'd have really, really high and kids could hide or kids could be behind them and the teachers couldn't supervise. So the perimeters would be very tall, tall lockers, double tier, and the perimeters in the middle would be just shorter lockers that would provide the spaces necessary. There's also an office space for PE staff, upgraded toilets to provide ADA compliance to the space, a separate toilet shower room that could be used for gender neutral. It could be used, for the coaches. So there's a variety of different designs that we could come up with for the space, but they would reclaim underutilized space within the locker room area. So that was the intent of redesign for the girls' locker room on the first floor. Similarly, for the boys' locker room on the second floor, again, the intent would be to reclaim and revisit the shower room and underutilized spaces within the existing area, look at where the coach's room and the office are, to be able to renovate those to provide, again, additional locker room space, or additional team room space, additional locker room space, revised shower areas. And you can see from this plan, the new shower areas that we provide are individual stalls, not unlike a toilet stall. They provide privacy. They provide an area to towel off so that you're not doing that exposed to the area. So, and there's a variety, the number of showers, including a handicap stall. There's a drying room, as well as, upgraded toilet facilities to provide ADA compliance, additional locker space, a coach's office with adequate storage, and then the staff offices as well, also with adequate storage and ADA compliant toilet rooms. So that was the renovations of the locker rooms. Yes.
You're referring to ADA. How does somebody in a wheelchair get up there?
In terms of any renovation that we do, any renovations that we do have to comply with ADA, regardless of whether there is or isn't an area to get up there. But Tom,
The thought that would be that at some point in time, there would be accessibility up into this area, whether or not it was another lift that could be potentially located towards the back of that space where the stair is, or whether or not it could be one of the other options that we have after, where we'll show, accessibility on that second floor for the second floor addition.
but any time that we touch a space to the magnitude that we're touching this, it has to be brought up to code. So then the second part of this, in order to provide, that takes care of the locker room. That reclaims underutilized space within the locker room, provides the necessary locker spaces, some team room space. But then the other part of this was to look at what could be done at the field to provide a team room and concession space. Because of the slope and where the existing bleachers exist, and I'm going to switch slides real quick, and I'm going to go to the site plan and show you where this building is intended to be situated. So in between the slope and the tennis court and the existing bleachers is where we're trying to situate this building and use the slope to be able to get two levels out of this. One level at grade at the field level, and then an upper level up above. And you can see from this image that how this building works with the slope. So as you go down the slope, you have this lower level that's accessible for the team rooms, and at the upper level, you have concession and a little plaza that overlooks the field. So back to the plan, if I look at that lower level, I have a home locker room. The home locker room is replete with lockers and spaces, benches, areas to change. There's a toilet area, ADA, again, compliant. There's a trainer's office, place to go in and get taped up and wrapped before a game, as well as a corridor that splits between the away and the home lockers. So this would be the away locker room. There would be an elevator within this facility to get to the second level. And then at the second level, we would have public toilets accessible from the upper levels. So there'd be a men's and women's room. There would be a concession stand that would be serving the public from that upper level. The elevator would let you off into a corridor, and then there would be a mechanical room, janitor's closet, storage, additional storage for the concession stand adjacent to the public toilets. So that would be the second level. There'd be a plaza outside for concession. You could overlook the field and look at the game, or you could go back down directly to the field itself, either via the elevator or the stairs. And that's, again, that image is kind of what we would do to use the slope that currently exists to be able to get the two layers, the two levels out of this. So obviously, this is always the big issue, and what things cost and how they cost. So our initial look at this, and we've updated this since 2022 because numbers change. In fact, some numbers have come down, but other numbers have gone up and continue to rise. Mechanical is something that we continue to struggle with as architects. Prices are all over the place. This is not, it's not here, it's all over the state. We have projects from Monmouth all the way down to Monmouth County, and we have bids coming in with mechanical work that is, extraordinary. The prices are prices we've never seen, and the contractors are intent on holding on to these prices. So, in terms of option one, which includes the renovations of the locker rooms. So this is reconfiguring the first floor and reconfiguring the second floor. We've split them in terms of budgeting. We've provided 2,400 square feet, which is the size of the girls' locker room. 3,700 was the size of the boys' locker room. And we are carrying, based on budgetary reasons, we're carrying $450 a square foot per cost for the cost of renovating those rooms. The reason for that is because of the reconfiguration, there's a significant amount of plumbing work that needs to be done. So we'd be saw cutting floors and rerouting sanitary lines and doing things to be able to get the plumbing where it needs to go in order to create greater efficiency. So we're carrying about $450 a square foot. We're also including furniture and equipment, which would be locker rooms and benches and those things necessary for a locker room. So when we put together a budgetary estimate, we want to make sure we're including all of those items that create a full project. If I give you a construction budget, but I don't give you the soft costs, you don't have a complete picture of what this project will cost you. So in addition, when we bid a project, the contractors are going to put overhead and profit on a job, so we add that. We make sure that you know what the bid price is going to come in at. So based upon these two projects, we're looking at construction cost only about $3.5 million to renovate the two locker rooms alone, renovate those two locker rooms. But when we start to add soft costs, which are fees, 10% contingency, environmental testing, because we have to test those areas, make sure that there's no hazardous materials, allowances, all the things that comprise soft costs, we come up with that number. We come up with a total project cost of about $4.2 million. And the next two columns are here because if we do these projects out of capital, this is the number that you guys are confronted with. There is no funding for these projects. You get no funding. If these projects could be included in some capacity in a referendum or something like that, you have the ability to obtain 34% debt service aid on those projects. These projects would all be eligible, renovation projects would all be eligible for the maximum debt service aid from the state, and that's 34%. So it would effectively allow you to pick up $1.5 million in debt service aid, reducing the renovation cost of those rooms to about $2.7 million. It's a big difference between just paying full price or getting the 30% discount. If I look at the new construction now, and we look at the new field house construction, we're talking about a new 2-story field house structure between the tennis courts and the bleachers, home away locker rooms, toilet rooms, trainer's office, public toilet rooms, and concession stands with that terrace. We're looking about building a structure that's about 5,200 square feet. New construction, the type of construction we're looking at there, it's on a hillside, it's not simple construction, it's not simple footings, it's probably about $850 a square foot. It's a small building. You're going to pay a premium for smaller construction. That building alone would be about $4.4 million in construction cost. Adding furniture, meaning lockers and benches and those same types of things for those team rooms, you're about $4.5 million. Once we get into those GC and overhead costs, the total cost for the project is about $5.2 million. As we get in through the soft costs, the total project cost is about $6.4 million. Now, because it's a core space, such as team rooms that are needed for school, there is an argument to be made to the DOE that we should be eligible for some sort of funding on this. It's not educational space, but it is a core space that you currently don't have. We have been successful in the past by petitioning DOE for some funding for core spaces that you are in need of, and have been successful. I won't say it's 30%, I won't say, it's 10, but anything is better than paying full price. So we've included, for the purposes of being conservative here, we've included 0. But the potential is there that you could receive something for that. So that's option 1. That's the renovations and the field house number. All total, those projects would be about $9.2 million to take care of the locker room renovations and the field house renovations.
I just have a question about the field house.
Yeah.
You said home and away.
Yeah.
You had said home and away locker space
Mm-hmm.
for the field house. What sports would be using this? Would be both the female and male? It's going to be unisex locker rooms?
Yeah.
Those kind of things?
Yeah, I mean, it could be home and away, it could be male and female, it could be depending upon what the sport is and the way it's ultimately designed. We've only looked at it from a conceptual standpoint, but based upon the sports that would be used, the lockers would change based upon whether it's boys and girls. We're currently doing a similar type of facility in Northern Highlands right now that is used for home and away. It will be used for girls and boys sports. So there are provisions that go into to planning and design to accommodate, instead of urinals on the wall for boys and girls, there's an area for that. There's an area for just stalls so that it accommodates both groups of students.
Yeah, even in these layouts, the layouts reflect, the same toilets in both, on both sides, so there are no urinals, it's just stalls.
We good with that? Okay. So option 2 is very similar. So the renovations to the locker room don't change, right? We're going to renovate this locker room anyway. So the renovations and the square footage and the costs and everything associated with the locker rooms don't change. We're still going to renovate the lower level. We're still going to reclaim the shower area, create locker space. So on the first floor, our design doesn't change. It's the same design to reclaim the underutilized space and allow us to effectively use locker and some team room space.
The only major change on the first floor is the addition of an elevator in the lobby.
Thank you. So as we get to the second floor, however, there is a change, and this is I lost my pointer. Okay, so this is our relative footprint right now of the second floor space. The intent here would be to redesign the second floor locker space, coach's office, again, the same intent to reclaim underutilized space, to provide provisions for all of the other needs of the space. But then the intent would be to construct an addition that would actually connect the two sides of the building and allow for an additional girls' locker room, girls' team room, staff offices, toilet room facilities, as well as common toilets and shower area, as well as coaches' offices in the center, and additional storage and equipment space. So this addition would serve two purposes. It would keep the footprint whole. It would keep us part of the contiguous part of the building. Everything's connected. If we add the elevator to the lobby, that also gives us the ADA accessibility that you were asking about. So it provides an alternative solution, but a contiguous solution to the building. And from that perspective, we like this option. It doesn't solve the field house problem or something close to the field, but it certainly provides a solution that accommodates, everything. Now, I won't tell you that, because we do that, it's going to be any cheaper than doing the other, because we're still constructing an addition on top of an existing building that we don't know is designed to handle the second floor, which may require that columns drop down from this floor to the first floor to the ground. Structural gets enhanced at that point. So there's more structure to deal with. There's things that we have to address. Again, the first line, the renovations to the locker room hasn't changed. It's the same number. Again, if we do get debt service aid, you're looking at $2.7 million. You're at $4.1 million if we just renovate those rooms. The addition, however, it's only 4,600 square feet. It's not 5,200 square feet like the other building. So we save some costs there. We're still using the same number. If this was a first floor addition, we wouldn't be using $850 a square foot. It'd probably be somewhere along the lines of $700 a square foot, $725 a foot. But based upon current numbers and what we've been seeing coming in, this is a very conservative number and something that we would expect to see for a building that's an addition that's 4,600 square feet. Now, obviously, if we combine the two and the two projects, you get an economy of scale. That may help bidders be interested in bidding the job. So looking at this, again, the additional furniture and equipment puts us at about $4 million even. When you start to look at the contractor's overhead and profit, you're looking at $4.6 million. And then after you get through soft costs, you're looking at a cost of about $5.6 million. Now, since we've already incorporated the renovation cost, you're getting funding on that. The addition, again, is in that similar category where you could potentially obtain funding if we petition the state, but we're calculating 0 state aid for that number as well. This puts you at about $8.5 million for this option number 2. Any questions?
The concession stand now is what kind of concession stand do we have up on the football field up there? There is one up there, right? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
The concession stand is above like the bleacher area, and it's next to like the house where it stores all like the equipment, like the tennis rackets or things like that. And it's basically just like this small little one-room like shack house kind of thing, where you can, you know, sell concessions and go up to the front and buy them.
Okay, so it's minimal at best.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's causing that, those exorbitant prices that you're getting from the contractors? Is it material?
So part of it's material. Since COVID, we've seen an acceleration in construction costs. I, in fact, did several budget estimating seminars down at school boards and at, business administrators conference, because we're trying to explain it ourselves. We're trying to understand it ourselves. We're trying to control it ourselves. A lot of the change is that it's a bull time for contractors. They are holding fast to construction prices that they're receiving. Manufacturers were receiving a significant amount of, you remember the $12 2x4, the $13 2x4. 2x4s are back down by $5, per 2x4. They'll never be $2 that they were, but we're seeing material prices increase, steel, those kinds of things, anything made with steel, furniture, furnishings. Our biggest issue right now is mechanical. Mechanical contractors are holding fast to these numbers, even where the manufacturers are saying they're receiving an 8% increase or a 5% increase in materials. We're getting prices for 30%. It's a ridiculous notion.
Is it unheard of for projects to where we would procure the material?
It's a strategy. It's certainly a strategy that can be employed. The difficulty there is with a GC or a single prime, you have a single source responsibility. Everything's warranted. When you purchase the material and you get the material, now was the material in good shape when you bought it? And it opens you up to issues. But yes, in every job that we do, out of the gate, we procure furniture on state contract. We procure casework on state contract. We don't expect the contractor to mark those materials up. We don't want them to, because if you put casework and furniture into the bid, the GC puts 10% on it. So we try to employ these types of strategies when we're bidding so that you're not paying those markups and that you're buying materials. Mechanical equipment, it depends on how complicated the mechanical system is. In a locker room, you've got multiple units, you've got exhaust, you've got a series of systems that you need to provide in order to provide ventilation air, fresh air, as well as make sure that space is adequately circulated. So purchasing the materials and having the contractor install them, he's still going to want to get paid somehow. And where I'm saying in terms of materials, we're seeing his markups are on labor, that his markups are on the materials. They're still doing it. And again, it's mostly mechanical. Electrical, the lighting fixtures, we've seen increases in materials. The lighting fixtures themselves are very costly.
Panels and for the new building, the service.
Yeah, electrical panels. PSE&G's taken a year. If it's a new service and it's something that needs to get added, we just had a project just receive switchgear for an electrical service a year after it was ordered. So there still is this, this issue with material shortages, but it's not as prevalent as it was during COVID, but it's still hanging around. Yes?
Two questions.
Yeah.
First is, to what extent, if any, did you all look at using existing space that might currently be a classroom based on the building's room usage?
So we did not look at exploring other areas of the building. We looked at the locker room proper and the potential to add additional space. We didn't do an overall capacity analysis of the building to see if there was areas that could be reclaimed or used. The difficulty when you're looking at sports and locker room spaces is the high degree of plumbing and things that are necessary for that space to be able to make it work. If we're talking team rooms, that's a little bit less of it, but if it's located in another location and you have to travel from one side of the building to get there, it's a time crunch or it's another issue in terms of getting utilities to that space. So we haven't looked at that. It's certainly something that can be explored.
And then the reality, Pat's point is that we're looking at something that's $8 million today, something 4 to 5 years from now, which is probably the realistic timeline on when something like this gets finished. You're probably, but we can't predict the future and what the economy is going to dictate.
It's a valid point, and being fully transparent, we're dealing with this. We put a project out in Lincoln Park. It's Morris County. We put a project down to DOE right before COVID hit. Our estimates were based upon pre-COVID numbers. The referendum went through and passed in March. COVID hit. We got shut down. The DOE got shut down. The project got approved, and the referendum passed. We're dealing with pre-COVID numbers in a post-COVID world. We did 2 roof projects. The bids came in fine. And we usually put escalators on so that normally in the first of a 2 or 3 year bid process, the initial project come in under budget, and that under budget savings floats as the projects come in over budget later on as costs escalate. In Lincoln Park, we've bid a mechanical project 3 times. The first time it came in, and it was 34 unit ventilator replacement. The first time it came in, $300,000 over budget. And we were like, we had one bidder. Let's bid it again. We bid it the same project. We gave them more time to do the work, same exact scope. Project came in $750,000 over budget. We bid the same project. We went into negotiations with the contractors. The 2 contractors, we opened it up to everybody else. The contractor said, I'll take $50,000 off the price. We said, forget it. We're going to reject the bids. He called our office. He said, don't reject the bids. I'll take $300,000 off. We told the district. The district said, the hell with that. You're extorting us. We're not doing this. They rejected the bids. We put the project out to bid. Another 6-8 months later, bids came in $950,000 over budget. We are in a spot in a district that we just are a victim of timing, and the costs are going up. Every other cost that we're experiencing, or most of the other costs, have reached some sort of normalcy. They floated back down to somewhat reality rates, but mechanical is really driving us crazy right now. And this, a project like this has mechanical. So that's going to be the big ticket. What helps here is being able to find a vehicle to get funding. Right, so including this as part of a referendum allows you to look at it from that perspective. And again, I don't know the tenor of the public and the community and what that would do, but the idea of being able to include it and get 34% on the renovations at least, to take a shot at possibly getting 10-15% on the new construction, certainly helps make that more palatable, because you're not paying out of capital 100% out of your pocket. You're not depleting capital on a project like this. And you're looking at even potentially adding other items that you might need that have to get done that are, so projects like this, locker room projects, don't typically sell referenda. They're a need. Mechanical equipment, mechanical units, people don't see. They don't typically sell referenda. But throw a media center in there, throw a science lab, throw education in there, classrooms and spaces that directly impact your children, they have the ability to do that. And again, I'm not suggesting it, I'm just throwing out that that's the one vehicle one thing available to you that you have to be able to obtain some sort of aid for the project. Rod grants, they're not going to allow you to do sections and small pieces, even if the rod grant came around again. And we saw from the rod grants, they only dealt with mechanical and electrical infrastructure. That's the only thing that got approved, no matter what people put in. So that's a sure thing, the 34% on the renovations, but you have to look at that determination as to whether it's worth to go out for that.
Could you talk just briefly, philosophically, about the idea of building up on the second floor versus building out now that we own properties surrounding hills? So we were previously landlocked. Now we've got a little bit more flexibility there. Could you just talk about that just philosophically?
Sure. So anytime we can procure additional land, it's great. But the problem, it's not a problem, right? Sprawl happens all over the place, and people do build out and take over space. The question is if you have a viable alternative to be able to build on your existing footprint, not change the impervious coverage, not change those things that are, that could, thank you, that not change things that could, be used and just, blow out and move out to the side. It can be done. The question is whether there's, we always, as architects and planners, we always want to look at the big picture. Does that fall within your master plan? Does that work with what might you do 6, 7, 8 years from now that you might need that land? What might be required to be able to use that land? So, again, if we did want to explore that, we would have to look at that big picture. What could come down the road? How does this square footage of what you obtained match up with what we want to do? How does that align with where everything else exists, in the school, and next to the gym, and what do we put there? So it's a much bigger question, but philosophically, I think what we've come up with is a really pretty efficient plan. You could see the cost is even lower than the other one, but again, there's a cost associated with it. And this is a budget number, not knowing when we would go out or not knowing what we would do. As we get closer and we look towards the design, there are ways to look at this number and try to chisel it a little bit more and make it more effective and make it more valid. So it's what we do when we get into the design process. We're looking at a concept that, we took some guesses and assumptions.
I have a question. I don't know if it's directly at you, but having a freestanding building like that by the, field, just a little trying to logistically, like students are leaving the main building with their stuff in tow. I'm a little confused how that would so much as benefit athletes. So are we dumping things there in the morning before class, and then running back? It's a walk. It's a schlep.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're bringing or dumping in the morning, going back over there, getting changed, getting out in the soccer field, football field, whatever, tennis, whatever you're going to do. I don't know.
Manners in how these rooms end up getting utilized. Oftentimes they're used for the games. They're used for the purposes of the games, whether it be the baseball game or the soccer game, so that the kids have a place to go just before the game or after the game. Oftentimes they'll leave whatever sport is in season during that period of time. They could potentially leave their stuff up there, so then they're going up there, after school or on the weekends. Their equipment is already there. At the same time, there's also I've seen some of the schools use it where it's not an assigned locker for everyone individually, that it's just really whatever team is going in there to practice has the ability to just kind of store their equipment and their gear during that period of time that they're up there, and then that's it, and they take everything with them when they go. So we've seen it used in multiple ways. I know this being a slight distance from the building itself, I would see that there's a good chance that the kids might actually be using and leaving their equipment up there, and that's where they have their primary team room, as opposed to being back in the building. If that makes sense.
But your point is a valid one. I mean, and these are the things that need to be explored further and looked at further in terms of, does it work? And that's kind of why again, I'm a purist. I like the integrated, looking at this addition and putting an addition on the second floor as opposed to, and again, I know it doesn't meet the need of the concession stand and the other things, but, there may be ways to address this, but by having a conversation. It's a good point.
I mean, I get concerned, I'm in Hillsdale, and they've tried to push a referendum, and it was
Sure.
shot down strongly by the community, and it was very academic, and it was for student learning. And now we're going to say, oh,
It was a big number.
yeah, it was a
It
big
was
number.
a big number.
And it was shot down strongly.
It was a big number.
So I think like a referendum like this, again, you're going to the community to ask their opinion and their backing for something financially. I don't know that, like you were saying, if we don't have something a little bit better to sell, that just sports is not going to work.
I agree. You have my complete agreement for that. You need something for everyone in terms of that referendum strategy. You need something that's going to appeal to the community. It's going to be a need, not a want, not a wish. It's going to be a need. And, you can demonstrate those things. We do referenda all the time. We've got a pretty good track record. We've passed 12 out of the last 13 referenda since 2019, $370 million worth of referendum work. It's all about transparency. It's all about giving the public what they need and letting them know why you're doing this. It's about making sure that they understand the cause as well as you do. So it's definitely something, if it's even a consideration, that has to be well thought out, well planned, and it has to include more than just, athletics. The only other piece I'll say is the more renovations you add, the more it offsets the lack of funding for the additions. So if you were to add more renovations, you get 43% more in 34% more in the renovations. So it offsets the cost. You could actually do more work for less money because you're getting more funding. It takes that funding formula and reverses it.
Again, we're going to 4 towns, asking them to do something that's only going to benefit Hills.
Sure.
It's a big chunk of money for athletics in one building.
Well, when you talk about equity, you might look at what does Valley need. So
Right, and now
that
you're doubling.
Now you're, right, now you're looking at those things. So, and again, it goes towards, what the palette is, and I don't know that answer. I'm just, again, my conversation is about this project, and it's about how can you get funded for it, because there's no other vehicle to do that.
So I think this is a bigger conversation for another time, over time, because we did start to talk about some of these other projects that may be needed between both schools and not this being an isolated project as part of a referendum.
Okay.
So those conversations, I think, did start back in 2022. And Joe, who was a part of them, can probably speak to that as well.
Okay.
I'd be curious to know what other opportunities there are within the building for renovating existing space.
Okay.
And, the reality is that we shouldn't be pitting one school against the other in terms of what one gets and the other should get. It should be what we need as a district. Because the reality is, when the last referendum passed, the one area that was neglected was team space for the girls here at Hills. So as we move forward, we need to rectify that some way, and doing it as part of a bigger plan, I think, is ultimately, what we'll hopefully be able to present to the public.
I just want to clarify, when you say that you do want to see if there's the possibility of utilizing existing space within the school to do renovations, are you talking about moving the locker room? I'm not sure.
I don't know what room utilization is, so I would leave it up to administration. We did look at room utilization back with the last superintendent, who provided us with some details and specifics on how rooms are utilized, how many periods during the day a room is used. So I'll leave it up to the architects to us know what spaces are around the gym that could be other potential options, and how those rooms are currently being used, and maybe where else those spaces or classes could be taught. I don't know, so.
The question for the architects, would that impact the cost? I mean, are there, I'm having trouble envisioning where there's spaces around the gym that we could impact this to impact the cost.
So this floor plan.
Would that change the cost, I think is the question.
Yeah, I think that if there's something nearby that can be utilized, you're not building additional square footage, you are renovating it. So if you don't have to build additional square footage and you renovate more, that gives you, again, more debt service aid if it's a referendum, but it does, you're not paying $850 a square foot, you're paying $450 to renovate, even if there's no funding. The question is going to be is whether that space exists.
I think that's my Robert, is that, like, looking at that right there, where's the potential, because we know what our room utilization is. Where around there could we expand?
You have
Well, this-
two science rooms.
Uh-huh.
You have the trainer, a storage room, and you have the fitness center.
The science room that's going to be, if I'm looking at this right here, the two science rooms that are down and to the left.
They would be up
Are they actually touching it?
above the wall. It's on the corridor.
Yeah.
The other side of the corridor.
I can picture where the science rooms are. I'm not picturing how they're touching the locker rooms. The back of the science room is touching?
There's a hallway around
Uh-huh.
the locker rooms. They're landlocked by a hallway.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the hallway is the science rooms, and to the left is the
So if you were to take on that first floor there, then potentially a hallway and two classrooms, does that change? And so I think what I'm trying to figure out is, are we asking the architects to do a new drawing including those science rooms, or are we asking if that would impact the overall cost? How would that impact the overall cost? Let's say that we could go out into two science rooms for the renovation.
Now you gotta.
Are we still looking at 450? Well, correct. We'd have, yeah, but
Yeah,
That's
and that was
expensive.
my point. You could be looking at more, because if you're relocating science labs, now you have to find out where to put those rooms and what you need to do. Listen, what I would suggest is, if these are the questions that you want us to evaluate, we certainly can look at it from that perspective. Because our plan, unfortunately, I don't have the entire footprint of the school plan, but we could kind of do an analysis of that area and ask you about what those classrooms are, what their capacities are, in terms of how often are they used. Are there 6 out of 6 periods a day, 9 out of 9? You know,
probably
how
8
often
out of
are they
8
used, and
for
what-
them, yeah. But I get what you're saying, yeah. Is the board interested in seeing that in a subsequent meeting? Or are we good with the estimate that this might be? I think that's my question.
If the rooms are being used, I don't know that it makes sense. I mean, I think Mike's point was, if there are rooms that are not being utilized to the fullest extent, okay, yeah. But it just doesn't make sense if 8 out of 8 periods, it's being used, because then where do we relocate them to?
They would have to be relocated.
Yeah, I just feel like you're trading, 5 pennies for a nickel.
How many, what I'd be curious to know is how many rooms are open per period, right, as a starting point, how those rooms are used.
Yeah,
Just
for,
from a room utilization standpoint, we're 4 years away from this project even possibly happening, I would imagine. So I
3.
think we would want to put everything on the table in terms of exploring what our
Well,
options are.
I mean-
And like the auditorium, making sure that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that, it meets every stakeholder's need.
it's a relatively simple analysis for us in terms of taking the plan, sending out kind of a survey to the principals in terms of the plan and the number of periods each classroom is used, and, if we want to segregate it to a certain period, part of the building, or look at the whole building, we can certainly do that. It's a pretty simple calculation. When you look at your LRFP that's down at DOE, that you do at DOE, it's really not a capacity. You get a building capacity from DOE. That's really a calculation based upon a formula that's DOE did in 2000. It has nothing to do with how many periods your classrooms are used, or what capacity is, or how many classrooms do you have that are full-sized, that are being used for 6 kids. You know, these are things that, you know, it's a very simple analysis, but it's something that could tell you what your room utilization is at the district level, not at DOE's level. It's a different formula. I don't really know how I want to do this. Email? I don't know where that goes.
So, is there a motion to move forward with an analysis that Solutions Architects would do to see what the utilization of the rooms are at Hills as of right now?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Is that correct? Do we have to do?
can do
Okay. Any more discussion?
So discussion, wouldn't we typically just send this back to the committee and then the committee would come forward with a recommendation? Isn't that the process on how that works?
Well, this particular project was requested to be before the full board, so it's before the full board right now. So I think it makes sense for the board to make a decision, since we have the architects here, as to whether or not we want more information. And then I think that information would be reported back to the committee first. Yeah.
Any further discussion?
Comes with a cost, correct, to do that one?
Yeah.
So we would have to know what that cost is in order to be able to vote.
We would get you a proposal.
So maybe we should get that proposal.
Motion to get a proposal.
No worries.
Yeah, so are we going to change that to the
motion
motion
to
to
get
get a
a
proposal
proposal.
on what the estimate would be for the room utilization at Pascack Hills?
Okay.
Do we need to do that?
All right, so Jim, you moved that. Can I get a second?
Second.
Or was doing it over? Because it's a different.
To get the proposal.
Now
You
we're
need,
just doing a
you moved it. You made a motion.
Yes.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Any discussion on that? Okay,
I'll let you take a vote.
Mr. Usami, oh, what?
I have to take a vote. Ms. Calderon,
Yes.
Mrs. Huang,
Yes.
Mr. Wuce is not here. Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Stankus,
Yes.
Ms. Steffens,
That's a good question, right? No. Yes.
Mr. Weaver. And Mrs. Varghese.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All good?
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we will now continue with old business.
Can we just get an update on the PV 911 access on the fields?
Yeah, so Mr. Zeller and Mr. Donahue actually came up with a, I think, very clever but effective solution to install a phone box out on the fields in between the football fields and the baseball fields, softball fields up at Valley. The box will be weatherproof. It'll have a phone inside. The phone will only be able to dial 911. It will actually automate a camera. When you open the box, the camera will come on. It'll dial 911, and we'll have a placard inside that has the school address and other emergency information, where the AED is located, that sort of thing. We're in the process of updating all of our facility use forms to include emergency information. That was a process we had started several weeks ago. So we'll include this into that new emergency information that'll be available for anyone who rents the facility. So that would take the issue of outside people using that field, would give them a way to guarantee to be able to call 911 if they were not able to get it on their cell phones.
Thank you to
Yep.
all for making that happen. We really appreciate that.
Any other old business?
Note about this week, I just wanted to thank the administration on how they handled everything this week with the staff and the students regarding, the unfortunate, tragic event that happened this week with our student, Joseph McNeese. So I just wanted to call attention to that because I was really pleased to hear what happened at school. So thank you.
Sure, of course.
Many of us, almost everybody in the school, parents, people who knew Joe McNeese or didn't know, showed up at the wake. Well, I was at training, but it was like 2.5 hours for people to just get through. It was really amazing.
Any other old business? Mrs. Swan.
I just want to thank the board for sending me to my training that happened within the first 90 days of me being on the board, and it was really informative. 80 of us were there, so we got to hear in the breakout rooms what's going on in the other districts as well. And I'm glad to be part of Pascack Valley District. Thank you.
And we're glad to have you. Any other old business? Any new business? Next, we have comments from the public. Citizens are invited to make comments and are limited to 3 minutes according to the Pascack Valley Regional High School District Board of Ed policy. Number 0167, persons wishing to speak must, upon being recognized, rise, sign in, and state their name and town of residence. Seeing as there is no one here, can I get a motion for adjournment? Second.
Second.
We're adjourned.